Aren't you guys glad I'm not one of those channels who decided to do an April Fool's joke? Well, hey, the joke could be on you. I could be recording this on April 1st. Therefore, it would count. So that could still happen. No, it's not going to happen. But what can happen, guys, and will happen, is I am going to close down the month of March now. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another monthly wrap-up. We're going to go ahead and close down the month of March of the great year of 2023 now, guys. We are one quarter into the new year already. It's just flying by. But before we go ahead and start that second quarter, it necessitates closing out that final month of the first quarter of 2023 by talking about March, guys. I think the best place to start, as always, guys, is talk about the books that I read in the month of March. Now, I read 6 novels and 1 novella. So let's go ahead and talk about those in the order that I read them now. Obviously, first up is Morning Star by Pierce Brown. This is part of the Red Rising reread or reread, however clever you want to get with it there. That's leading up to the release of the new book this summer. Very exciting because there are a lot of first-timers reading the series with me, and they were over the moon happy with this book. They pretty much, I'd say, of all the newbies, pretty much every one of them say it is their favorite in the series. I still stick with Golden Sun, but it's close, guys. It's like a 1A, 1B with me, but it was a very, very fun time rereading it. You catch a ton of things. There are some things that are set up in this book that are very, very big in the sequel series that I did not remember being set up quite so well the first time reading it. So that's the benefit of a reread, is when you know what's coming, you know how to look for those tiny little seeds that the author's planting, and Pierce does a great job there. There's lots of those gotcha moments I say kind of annoy you sometimes, but again, I feel like the rewards just are so good. You kind of oversee the warts there. But yeah, fascinating end to a trilogy that could have ended as a trilogy, and I think would have been pretty satisfying knowing what we've gotten in the 2 sequels so far. I hope you don't decide to do that, and I might be talking about that more on the channel coming up soon. Next up, the novella was Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. This is the novella. I said that whatever she put out after Greenbone Saga, I was definitely going to give that a shot. I did get a review copy of that, and I read it in 2 days. It's very, very short. That's what I'll say about it. It was one of those things where this isn't a problem with Fonda Lee. This is a problem with me. A problem with me is I don't really usually like novellas because I feel like right when they're getting good, they end. And that's always really tough for me if it isn't part of a greater universe. If it's really just a standalone, one-off kind of novella thing, like this sounds like this is supposed to be, as far as I know. It was good. I liked it a lot, but I was like, man, I wish this had been a novel. So, I mean, obviously the idea of training these awesome, huge birds of prey to help hunt down legendary creatures and stuff, very, very cool. I liked it. Had a really good coming of age. It was very violent in a way that, you have to have your hero come of age by bad things happening to them. It's very violent in that way. So I thought it was very, very well written. I think that she's only going to get better as she goes along here. But I do wish this had been part, a full book and a book 1 of a series, I think, out of her. So I know that as fantasy fans, we cry, we want more standalones, and then when we get them, we say, hey, why is there not more of this? I get that I'm kind of taking both sides of it there. But yeah, in this instance, I did want my cake and eat it too, because it was very, very good. And I wanted a little more. So hopefully she will. Hopefully she'll revisit this universe again, because I'd like to know more about this culture and just, more than just a simple kind of one-off journey, which I will leave for you to discover on your own. I don't want to kind of spoil anything for you that happens there. But yeah, I do recommend that you pick that one up. Fool's Hope by Mike Shackle. This one is book number 2 in the last war. And you guys know how much I liked We Are the Dead. And I like this one even better. I think that he did pretty much the impossible with this book, and that he took a book that I really, really liked, and usually in fantasy it seems like when there's a trilogy you have that middle book syndrome. Not in this case. Mike did a great, great job. Cannot wait to finish that series off in April here with Until the Last, which is a massive, massive book, but I can't wait to see how he sticks the landing. The one that I'm continuing to read with my kids is Percy Jackson and the Olympians. We read book number 4, which was Battle of the Labyrinth. Personally, for me, it's my favorite in the series so far. He says it's his second favorite. But what I liked about it, felt like it took all of each one. It seemed like there was one of the main characters was always kind of sidelined or needed to be rescued or was off doing something off page. It's a first-person narrative with just Percy. This is the first one where I felt like the gang was all there. Everyone was together. It really, really starts to dive really deep into a lot of that Greek lore. Something I appreciate about the series, I said at first I felt like it was really just super cutesy for kids, like where to a point to where someone my age is not going to be able to enjoy it. I feel like starting with book 3, he's starting to get a little more serious with it. It's still very lighthearted. It is still very much junior high age. But I feel like it's one of those things like a Pixar movie where an adult can still enjoy it. You're still going to have a good time with it. Like I said, this isn't a series I'd be reading on my own. Probably not. It probably wouldn't click for me that way. But sharing it with my kid has been a blast, and I recommend that everybody does that. We're very excited to finish up book number 5. The final Percy Jackson Olympians book until this fall when a new book randomly comes out. We're very excited to finish that off. I can't wait for it. Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb wrapped up the Tawny Man trilogy. Had mixed reactions to it. I know that Fool's Fate is usually number 1 or number 2 on everyone's list when they finish Realm of the Eldlings. It's not that high for me. We'll put it there. I didn't dislike the book. It just didn't hit the same beats for me that apparently it just clicks for everyone else. I'm going to be talking about the Tawny Man sometime probably this week. I'm going to be reviewing, because I'm moving now away from reviewing Robin Hobb books individually and reviewing them as a little sub-series. So I'll be doing the Tawny Man trilogy review. And I'll talk about a little bit more there, is that I liked a lot of it, guys. I really did. There's a lot of things that didn't work for me, and I'm going to talk about why. And I know that's probably going to be a very unpopular opinion, but as always, guys, I don't bullshit you here. I'm going to tell you how I feel about it. And I'll say that Fool's Fate, it might have made Tawny Man my least favorite series that I've read in the Realm of the Eldlings so far. And we're going to discuss why. I can't wait to do it. But yeah, Fool's Fate, some big moments that were really great. It's just a lot of the problems that I have with Realm of the Eldlings is that sometimes she just happens to take too long to get there. And I felt like I had a lot of the same criticisms I had about Wheel of Time that everybody let slide by, but they're giving me a hard time about this. But again, I'll revisit that when I talk about the Tawny Man this week. Bag of Bones by Stephen King. This was a reread. This was the first time reading this since I think I was 20. I don't remember. I got this one on release day when it came out, and I'm still blown away that it's like 25 years old, because like I said, it's one of those first ones I remember going to the bookstore on release day and picking up. And I wasn't crazy about this era of King's writing when I was a teenager, because I just wanted to write about the spooky stuff, which is surprising me, because when I read this, I was like, man, I didn't remember this one being quite so spooky. It's a really good ghost story, guys. It is. It gets a little crazy towards the third act, but again, I feel like saying that a Stephen King book gets crazy. It's like saying, hey, sometimes the sky gets blue. That's how I feel about saying that. But I think that it was a lot more enjoyable at this age. I'm pretty much the same age the protagonist was in this. Not quite going through a midlife crisis, but I can kind of relate to what the character is going through in this. Thankfully, I'm not widowed and going through that, but I felt like it was a really good ghost story. And there were some things that were uncomfortable, which I'll talk about when I review it for Into the Multiverse this month. But I did like it. I did like it a lot more. And I think it deserves a higher ranking than you usually see amongst the Kingdom, where a lot of fans just rank it like in their bottom 10 King books. I definitely think it's a lot better than that. I think people are getting it confused with how awful that A&E miniseries was with Pierce Brosnan. I really do. Because the book was massively, massively better than that adaptation was. But maybe I'll talk about that miniseries there when I get into reviewing it for Into the Multiverse. And lastly, guys, A Storm of Swords by George R. R. Martin. I'm actually about 86% done, so I didn't actually finish it. But since it was a reread, I'm not going to hurt myself too much for that. I'm not going to take away too much there. Again, what else can I say that I haven't already said in my weekly updates is I think that this is the greatest singular fantasy book of all time. So there's nothing really more that I can add until I do actually review it, and then Throne Zone will eventually do our spoiler discussion for it. But it's a book that's 1,000 pages almost on hardcover. 973 is how much mine is. And there's not a single wasted page. I mean, every single chapter, something monumental has happened. Just the pacing. So much happens in that book. Like in just that single volume of A Song of Ice and Fire, I feel like is more than happens in a 5 or 7 book series that's out now. It's just so just packed to the brim. It is overflowing with awesomeness, guys. It's so good. It really is. I can't wait to talk to you a little bit more about it. But that was the month there. Quite a lot of pages. Had some short ones in there. Obviously, Percy Jackson and the novella by Fonda Lee made it a little briefer. When you're reading a Red Rising book, guys, you can just fly through it. And those Mike Shackle books so far, 2 for 2, with just how fast you can go through it, because it's just so fast-paced. So I think besides A Fool's Fate, I pretty much breezed through everything this month as far as like how quickly I read it, because of just how the pacing is in those stories. But guys, there can only be one, right? It's time for the book of the month for March. If you guys have been watching the weekly updates, I don't think that this one is going to be very much a surprise to you because I'm quite happy with the series. Want to take some guesses while I get a sip here? I think you can put it together. I don't count rereads, guys. So rereads are never going to be a contender here, or else it would be Storm of Swords. But since it can't be a reread, guys, it's going to be A Fool's Hope by Mike Shackle. Back-to-back months, guys. Mike Shackle has got Book of the Month for me. That rarely happens. I think Michael J. Solomon's the only other person to ever do that for me when I was finishing up Rhaenyra. This series, guys, is completely underrated. I don't know how this series is not bigger on Grimdark BookTube, if that's a thing. All of my Grimdark friends that love First Law, that love Mark Lawrence, I have no idea what you're waiting for. I have no idea why it took me this long. This series is actually really great. And I feel like if he sticks the landing in book number 3, this is going to be one of my favorite trilogies ever. It really is that good. And I think what made this book more special than the first one is, in the first one he had a POV of one of the primary villains. And this one it takes a different villain, and it's someone from like the grunt level. So it's, instead of showing you someone way up at the top who's got all their evil plans and things like that, and it is kind of mustache twirly, this one you see kind of a reverse arc. You got Mation, and then you've got Tinstra, which is, I guess you would say if there's a protagonist arc. And they have these arcs that kind of go parallel in what they believe. One believes this when they join up, and one believes this when they join up. And as the series goes along, they kind of go in different ways with what they believe and kind of their growth. And it's such a beautiful journey. So again, his character work is really good. I mean, there's the characters, like I said, it is very much in that First Law way. I tell people, don't go into this expecting First Law, you'll be disappointed. But I think fans of First Law will enjoy it. And what I mean by that is you have these characters that do awful things. Just despicable things. And you find yourself rooting for them. And you're sad to see it if they don't make it. And there are some heart punches in this book, guys. But it has this one major twist. About the 2/3 point where I was like, I feel like we're rushing towards the end of this book, and I still got 250 pages, and he does something that was really surprising me, but oh my God, does it work. It lands really well. It's something I feel like might take some people out of it, because I feel like they think that goes a little too far. I don't know why. You're reading a book series, a fantasy series where there's demons flying all over the place, and there's fantasy creatures and there's magic and stuff like that. I don't know why this one other element that I'm talking about would take you out of it, but I have heard that complaint. But again, to me, it was amazing payoff, and it helped to average some things out for a character that you thought might have been kind of a tertiary character in the first book, and you're seeing now this is going to be a major player through the rest of this series. So I just think it was, again, he's 2 for 2 on perfectly balancing how his story is progressing. He's showing you a little more. You get to see a little more of the world this time. You get to see 2 separate points as the cast has grown a little bigger. But again, I love it because no one is safe, and I feel like in the 3rd book, it could be complete. I expect complete chaos. I expect to be a little upset, so it's like I am not as much worried about him sticking the landing as I am worried for some of these characters he's made me love already. But yeah, I'm very impressed. Very impressed. And I would say, guys, if you are into, like I said, Joe Abercrombie, Mark Lawrence, Pierce Brown, I think you guys will like this a lot because it's super fast-paced. The characters, while despicable, you'll find yourself rooting for them, and he pulls no punches. It is very R-rated, guys. I think you will be shocked a little bit about what he does put in here. But if you're like me and those things, because you just got a little grimdark heart, go for it. Go for it. I think you're going to absolutely adore it. And that's why, guys, 2 months in a row now, Mike Shackle, Book of the Month. Can he pull off the Triple Crown? I can't wait to find out, guys. It's going to be very exciting. So, yeah, Book of the Month, guys, Fool's Hope by Mike Shackle. I hope you will pick it up. Let's talk about some channel growth real quick. It's the first month in a while, guys, where I got green arrows in all 3 of those major categories: subscribers, views, and amount of hours watched. So very exciting month for me in many ways. I got to do some collaborations that I've been waiting to do for a long time, and I think that helped out, and I'll explain as I go here. 1,636 new subscribers to the channel, up 359 from February. Obviously, it's still not tracking as well as it should be for whatever reason, because when I look at these other numbers, it's always weird to me that the other 2 categories are so high. It makes no sense that subscribers go down. I'm still sticking with my theory that they are sweeping away some dead accounts and bots. But, again, maybe I need to work harder on getting people to press that subscribe button. I don't know. We did cross 90,000 subscribers on the channel, so still on schedule for that 100K this year. That would be very exciting. So thank you, guys. You continue to be awesome. 439,000 views. That's up 89,000 from February. I think I know what's going on here. 128,000 hours watched, guys. Get this. Up 65,000 from February, guys. That is literally doubled from last month. And I think I understand what happened here. If you don't know, the collaboration I was talking about that I was so excited to do was I finally got to talk to Murphy Napier on a Talk About Nothing. And I think what happened here was that shot into a lot of recommended, the kind of recommended bar on the side for a lot of viewers that maybe aren't subscribed, and they checked that out. And then they looked back at, well, what was the last one of these that he did? And I did a Talk About Nothing with my good friend Madison Goodyear, who's my co-host on Throne Zone, and As the Wheel Turns. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to do that anymore, so I don't like to mention that one. So Throne Zone. And the thing is I think that people started watching that because that video somehow has now surpassed the amount of views that video of Murphy has. And it all happened this month, and that video is 2 months old. So I think, again, both of those Talk About Nothings are 2 hours long, so people were watching both of those. And I think that will... Obviously, that's going to jack up your stats when it comes to watch time. So very exciting, and it did help out the channel a lot this month. And again, I thank Murphy for coming on. That's something that's been there for a while. And I guess that kind of takes me into my most popular content for the month. I think you know which one's going to be there. So I did 20 total videos in March. Now, 4 of those were live streams, 2 were shorts. In fact, one was a short, and the other one was just like me announcing that a live stream wasn't going to happen, so I wasn't really going to count that. But 14 regular recorded videos. Talk About Nothing with Murphy, number 1, obviously, 33,000 views. So to me, guys, that was a bucket list item for me to be able to talk to Murphy. Like most people here, she was one of the first people I ever found on BookTube and was a great influence. And I feel like of all of the larger booktubers, I guess you call them, like the 500,000 club, she's always been the nicest and most approachable while I've been doing this. I mean, when I had 5,000 subscribers, she was very nice and helped me find this new camera, so I would quit recording on my webcam and stuff like that. But we talked for 2 hours, and it's really great because what's awesome about me and Murphy is we have very different opinions on books. I mean, a lot of things we come up in that video, a lot is how much we disagree on a lot of these books. But you know what? That's what we think is great about it, is you can talk about this. It doesn't mean you can't be pals. I mean, you can't have things to talk about and relate to. But that was a really, really fun conversation for me. We talked for a while before and after that call. It was really, really great. So always, guys, Murphy is the best, and I love her to pieces. And I want to thank her again so much for coming on. It was really great. Hope we can do it again sometimes. Next up, guys, 10 series I'd like to begin in 2024 and beyond. Now, what this is I know a lot of people think that's really early to be doing. You're looking ahead to 2024 video. I work in finance, guys. We do everything 12 to 15 months in advance. So we always do long-range forecasts. And yes, if you've missed that, guys, I do apply my actual career to this channel. I do those things. That's how I do the marketing. That's how I do the data analysis. It's just something that I do. You got to get used to that. So what I like to do in April every year is I put out 10 series that I'm interested in. I listen for feedback. I listen to recommendations. And then I'll do, in October, I'll do my series that I'm starting next year in permanent ink. So that means when I narrowed it down, these are the ones I'm starting for sure in the next year. So this is part of a 2-step plan that I always do. And I always listen to you guys' recommendations. Like I remember last year, I moved Drist up based off of the feedback to that video. So it's something I may not be able to respond to every comment anymore, but I read them all. Especially on a video like that where I'm asking for your feedback. So that's really what that one was. And like I said, it had 12,000 views, so I'm glad. People are always excited to hear about what you've got planned way down the line, because there's always a series that people want you to read, and they just want to make sure that you haven't forgotten about it, because that tends to happen. So I try to write them down. February 2023 book haul. This one has 11,000 views. People always love a book haul. For me, it's a great month when a book haul video is not number 1. That means you had something else that took off a little bit, as we saw with a couple of those first couple videos. But yeah, with a book haul, always, again, it's my opportunity to say thank you for sending me such amazing stuff. I'll be doing my one for March here really soon. I like to do those early in the month so I can make sure that I tell everybody thank you and get all of them off my floor, because I keep them stacked up right here by my desk until I record that video, just so I don't forget or misplace anything and forget to tell those wonderful, wonderful viewers and publishers and authors, thank you so much for thinking of me and sending me something. Viewer results. Now, what this was the fantasy series that I want to start after I finish Realm of the Eldlings. Now, I did this with the sci-fi one before for when I finished The Expanse this fall. And I didn't make a results video for it because it was a blowout. It was like within the first day I knew Adrian Tchaikovsky was going to win. With this one, it was close. It was super close. It's like I put up 5 series. 4 and 5 had a lot of support. They did. But the top 3 were within like a handful of votes for each other. In fact, the final tally count came down to 1 vote. 1 vote for that winner. So I feel like I need to make that video and describe my process, and then describe my process of why I'm starting one of them actually earlier than that, because of it. You watch the video, you'll see. There's a reason I have for it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun for me because I was just blown away. Almost 300 votes, and I didn't just do a regular poll. I did it by comments. So going through all those comments for a couple of hours and going through that, and I'm just like looking at my Excel spreadsheet. I'm just like blown away. I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea this is going to come down to the wire. So all I'll say, guys, is don't doubt the power of self-publishing. Because I had a lot of people before I did that say it was really rude of me to put a self-published author in that category with 4 established titans, I believe they were called. And here's the thing is, like, that author came in 2nd place. So never underestimate the power of a self-published author on BookTube that's got a lot of popularity. And that's what that one came down to. And lastly, guys, I'm really excited when an actual book review makes a top 5 for the month. 9,000 views. This was my Trust of the Emerald Sea review by Brandon Sanderson. Obviously, the Lord Ruler is always going to get a lot more attention than any other on Fantasy BookTube. That's just the way it is. And I'm fine with it because I really did enjoy Trust of the Emerald Sea, and I wanted to talk about why. And tell Brandon Sanderson and Dragonstone Entertainment, thank you so much for sending me a copy of the book. It's a beautiful, beautiful edition, and it was a really light and fun and charming story that I enjoyed quite a bit. You got a good animal companion in there. You got pirates. You have a coming-of-age story. These are all things that I love in my fantasy. And it was one of those things where I was like, man, I hadn't been back to the Cosmere in, gosh, like almost 3 years now, waiting between Stormlight Archive books. So it was a lot of fun for me because I didn't read the most recent Era 2 of Mistborn book, but this was a lot of fun going back, and just Sanderson just continues to find that way to make everything just feel kind of whimsical and magical. He's able to do that like no other modern fantasy author. It's actually quite amazing how he does it, and I'm glad I got to talk about it there. As for some of my favorites that didn't make it, why you should read The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. That was a nostalgia hit for me. I was just very excited to talk about my influences. It's some things where I feel like I know this probably isn't my viewing audience, probably isn't into something like this. But with Narnia, it's like I like to talk about the things that were influential to me growing up, and that's going to be Tolkien, that's going to be C.S. Lewis. Those are things I'm always excited to talk about, and I hope that came off there. Saturday nights, I got to talk to Viking, Issa, and my first collaboration with Petrick. That was very exciting. I can't believe this is the first time that Petrick and I have actually collaborated, but it was a lot of fun. Did that one basically as an early edition, so it was Saturday morning nights, because all 3 of those my co-hosts there were actually on very, very different time zones. So we made that work, and it was a ton of fun. A great, great conversation. I really did enjoy it, getting to pick the brains of 3. I feel like booktubers that have a very different style than me, and I love that. I love that because I feel like we can learn from each other that way. It's really, really cool. And then I did bring back Throne Zone, as I mentioned earlier. Throne Zone is something that me and my old podcast host used to do, and I got his blessing for me to revive that with Bald Booktuber Scott, and, of course, Madison Goodyear, when we were doing House of the Dragon Season 1 after show. And we decided, hey, it's going to be 2 years until Season 2 of House of the Dragon. What should we do? A lot of people had recommended, hey, you guys are really good. Why don't you guys do a rewatch of the TV show and do podcast episodes for each one? I was like, I don't think any of us have that much time to rewatch that show and do a podcast episode for each. So we said, how about, since we're all rereading the books right now, how about we just do spoiler discussion for those? Because I'm already doing my standard spoiler-free reviews here. Why don't we do spoiler discussions for that? So we did that for A Game of Thrones, and it was a lot of fun. And the feedback's been really, really positive. I feel like most people at this point, they've either watched the show or they've read that book. So they were interested in doing that. Whereas the spoiler talks are always going to be hit or miss, I think. But yeah, a lot of fun. I miss talking to Scott and Madison every single week about this world of Ice and Fire that I do adore so much. So I'm glad that we were able to find an excuse to get together and do that. We'll be doing a Clash of Kings probably sometime in May or so. I'm not really sure. We haven't really talked about it yet. But there is a lot of other booktubers that are doing coverage for that right now, and I don't want to kind of step on any of their toes. So I want to make sure that I give them the opportunity to do theirs first, and then I'll go ahead and do mine. I'm removing flop of the month from these videos, guys, because I got feedback that people don't like that. They don't like me talking about that. And like I said, I listen to you guys' feedback, and they don't like me talking about, look, I'm always going to talk about analytics because that's just the kind of guy I am, but they don't like me talking about videos that don't do so well. So, okay, I heard you. I'm not going to be doing flop of the month anymore. So let's just go ahead and move into goals here and shut this one down. I think I want to continue to be a warden here for the Red Rising reread. Just continue to make sure everyone's having a good time. I feel like this is the part where I'm going to start having to put in a lot more work because the sequels do tend to lose some people because the series does change up a little bit. I want to tell you guys it is worth it. And that's why I'm going to be making a video later on in the month of April about, why maybe why you should you read the Red Rising sequels. I'm going to present all the reasons why I think that you should, and you can kind of take those tidbits and decide for yourself. Does that sound like something that I would like? I'm going to kind of tell you why they're a little bit different than that original trilogy, but it's oh so rewarding if you do. And also, there's a new book coming out this year. I think that should be the biggest one. Lucky enough to have some great authors that are going to be guesting on the channel sometime in April. I'm very excited about that. The one I can't tell you for sure, because we've nailed down a date, is R.A. Salvatore. I am over the top excited about this one because, guys, regardless of how you feel about R.A. Salvatore as an author or his books, that's fantasy royalty. This guy's been doing this as long as I've been alive. I can't wait to talk to him, and I can't wait to pressure him to know why he did what he did to Star Wars. You'll understand if you've read the new Jedi Order, but it's exciting. It's exciting. I've never, ever expect any author to say yes when I asked to speak with them. So when I actually emailed him, I did not expect to get a response. But then when he told me he's actually seen my Driss content, I was blown away. Blown away. And I'm so happy we're going to make this happen. And the other ones, I'll refuse to mention their names here until we actually nail down a date for sure, because I don't want to tell somebody, yeah, me and this author are getting together, and then it doesn't happen, because I feel like that's disappointing to everyone involved. With me, guys, I just want to always continue to make sure this place feels very, very welcoming and open for you. That's why I say I'm always honest, because I'm never going to bullshit you, because I like to be genuine on everything that I'm talking about. And one of the things I want to make sure that I get across as genuine is that this is a place that is welcoming for everybody. I don't care what you believe outside of the world of books. That's up to you. That's your business. It's none of mine. I'm here to talk about the books, guys, and if you want to talk about the books, you will always have a home here. Make this home base for you, and I would love to have that happen. So, guys, that is my month of March. How did it go for you? How many books did you read? What was your book of the month? What was your favorite video that I put out this month? I always love to hear these things in the comments. So drop down there and let me know, and have yourselves an awesome, awesome April.